Good afternoon. Welcome to the Campervan Campout Hub. We are delighted to have with us Touring with Kids again. And this time they're talking all about the conversion of their 7.5-ton truck. So please welcome Rick, Kira, and the kids to come and talk about their 7.5-ton truck. Let's give them a big welcome.
So hi there, guys. Yes, it's on, yep. We're going to be talking about converting a 7.5-ton lorry into our family home. So I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty detail of all the electrics and all of that sort of stuff. It's more of the process and then an overview of the systems that we've used. So just first up, a little bit about us. So we're a family of 5. I'm Rick, Kira, and we've got Piper, Jack, and Teddy just at the front there. They do have some kids' stickers. So if there's any kids that want a little sticker, just come up and see them, and they'll give you one. But we live in a 7.5-ton lorry full-time, and we've been full-time for the past 2 years.
Yep, and during that time, we have traveled to 16 countries in total, most of them in Europe, but we did spend 3 months in Morocco just recently, which was absolutely amazing. We obviously homeschool, we can't send our kids to mainstream school because we're on the road traveling, and we share all of our adventures on our YouTube channel, Touring with the Kids.
Yeah, so I suppose the first question is why a 7.5-ton lorry? And so for this, we have to go back to our previous build. So this is the van we had before our lorry, a Citroen Relay, long wheelbase. We built it ourselves, and we got this initially living in a house to go away weekends, school holidays, etc. Then we decided to hit the road full-time, maybe for another year, and so we kitted this out to suit our needs at the time. For that permanent, sort of temporary trip, maybe 1 year, as I said. But then we decided, actually, let's continue the trip. Let's actually continue this on a permanent basis. But that was too small. It had a number of things that were a bit compromising for full-time living. And so we had to look at different base vehicles. And there's several up there. There's the Overlander. So if I won the lottery, I would definitely get an Overlander, and it would be the best thing ever. But our bank account's missing a few zeros, so we sort of had to cross that one off the list.
And then there's the motorhome, and we actually had a motorhome in 2019, the first time we sold our house to go traveling. We spent 5 months in that, traveling over Europe. But we struggled to find a layout that really works in a motorhome for 3 kids. We only had the 2 kids at the time in 2019, and it is really hard to find a decent layout with 3 kids.
Yeah, and then there's the panel van. So our previous one was a panel van. You can get some pretty big panel vans. I think the Iveco Daily go up to, maybe 5.5 tons, something like that. But again, trying to get all of us in, plus a dog, we sort of ruled that one out. And then the final one, a coach. It was incredible how many comments we got saying, you should have got a coach. You should have got a coach. And we was quite surprised with that. We do know a family that have a coach, and it's fantastic. They have a car in the back of it. It is great, but yeah, for us, it didn't sort of fit the bill. But one thing we did sort of want to do is a self-build. And here are some of the reasons. It's really that freedom. We wanted to design something that suited our specific needs. So you've got things like layout. We get to play around with the layout and make it how we want it. You can think about, do you want it stealth or put windows in it? I don't know how you would make a lorry stealth. You got solar. How much solar do you need? Are you going to go for a gas system? Insulation, what type? There's loads out there. So we have all this choice and ultimately cost. We get to play around within our budget and to suit our needs. And then, as some of you have seen, this is the lorry we have. So we have a Mercedes Atego 818. It's a sleeper cab. So when it was a commercial vehicle, there was a bunk behind the 2 seats in the front where the driver slept. We've taken those out, and that's where the kids now sit. It's got a 5.2-litre engine. It's just over 9 meters long, so not massive. It weighed 5.5 ton empty, so when we bought it, so it's a heavy, heavy beast. And we can obviously go up to 7.5 ton.
So the layout you're looking at here, which is very roughly drawn, not to scale or anything like that, that is the layout we have in our motorhome. You'll see the bits in purple are the kids' bunks. So the boys have the one with the little line through it, that's a double bunk. Piper has the top one, which is raised so that we have a garage underneath, which we can access from outside the lorry. The big blue bit there is our bathroom, our shower. Not sure what colour it's coming out as, but grey colour there is like a little sideboard, storage, dog's bed. And obviously the orange is our big dining area, which also turns into our bed, and the yellow being our kitchen area. Rick actually drew this out like so many times. He had his little sketchbook and he just kept drawing and drawing and drawing. But this was obviously the one we finally came up with.
Yeah. Okay, so a few legal requirements with the 7.5 tons. So first of all, you need a C1 license. Now, I think this is the right date. If you did your license before 97, then you might already have the C1 entitlement. But if you did it after that date, you're going to need to do your test. And that involves a medical, a driver's medical. You need to do 2 theory tests, which are heavily based, in my opinion, on the big 44-ton articulated lorries. And you do a practical test, which I did in a transit van. So you don't do any sort of tests about a 7.5-ton lorry, so you really still go into it very new, and it is quite expensive. The second thing is your vehicle weights. You do have to be, you have to be a bit cautious with your weights. You can go up to 7.49 gross tons, so that's including absolutely everything. Your water, your diesel, your food, dog, all of that sort of stuff. So I thought it'd be interesting, how many people have actually gone over a weighbridge in their motorhome or camper van? A couple of people. Yeah, so it's really interesting going over a weighbridge and getting your weights done. And if you want to do it, and I recommend everyone doing it just out of a matter of curiosity, you can just type in public weighbridge and then your county, and often your county council have a long list of public weighbridges. We paid a tenner, to get our weights done. And your axle weights are also very important. You have a gross vehicle weight, you also have a front axle weight and a rear axle weight, which you need to be cautious of. The final thing is what a lot of lorry drivers sort of comment about is tachos and driving hours. We're a private heavy goods vehicle. We have no tacho. We don't need 6 weekly inspections. We don't have any driving hour limits, and we are taxed as a private heavy goods vehicle.
There we are. And just if you are watching and you are wanting to do a big conversion like this, then those 2 Facebook groups at the top are really useful. Go onto there, join the groups, ask the questions, and they're generally quite helpful, aren't they?
Yeah, they're really good, friendly bunch of people.
So moving on to the conversion itself, and a few of the considerations that you're going to want to sort of bear in mind really before you get started. The first one is your location. You're going to need somewhere to convert a vehicle of that size. Obviously, we were in the van at this point when we needed to convert it, so we didn't have a driveway or anything like that. Not that it would have fit on our driveway in the first place, but we needed to find somewhere that was secure. We needed electricity as well, so whether that's mains or generator. We actually had a generator, and that's how we got our electric. Also, access 24 hours. If you're working and you want to work on it in the evening, then you're going to want to get somewhere that doesn't shut the gates at 5 p.m. And also space to store your materials. You're going to have a lot of materials, a lot of wood, a lot of tools. You need somewhere to put that. And obviously, you want to find somewhere that's not going to cost too much money.
Yeah, and also your time scale. So I think it's best to set a time scale to work to and be realistic, not like us. So this time last year when I was sort of mentioning this, I said we can do it in 8 weeks, which I was very optimistic about. We ended up doing it in 16 weeks, which I think is still pretty good going. And I think in our view, too long, if you give yourself too much of a deadline, it might never get completed. So too long could lead to a bit of reduced interest and cost. If you're paying for a location, then your cost is going to mount up over time.
Yep, and then there's the time of year that you're going to want to do it. So there's no right or wrong time. There's pros and cons. If you're going to convert in the summer, then you might be ready to then travel in the winter, which might not be ideal. But obviously you've got your long days, warm weather. It's a lot easier from that point of view. But if you're converting in the winter, you've got your rain, your cold, your wind. But then you might be ready for the summer and have a good summer in it. So there's your options.
Okay, so going on to our electrical system. So I'll just give you a little overview of the main bits of our system. So we've got 600 watts of Renogy flexible panels. I went for flexible panels because the roofs of a lot of trucks is fiberglass. It's only about 3 mil thick. So I went for flexible panels. It's important that you actually install them correctly. We actually got them done independently by some professional guys. But yeah, you don't seal around the edges of flexible panels. You have to do it in a way to allow airflow underneath and all of that sort of jazz. We've got 400 amp hours of lithium batteries. Again, Renogy system on that. And you need something to charge those batteries. So we have a Renogy solar charge controller. We've got a Victron charger, DC-DC charger, which takes charge from the engine batteries to the leisure batteries. Now, on trucks, your engine batteries are 24 volts, so you're going to need to drop that down to 12. So Victron actually do a specific 24 to 12. It's the Orion DC-DC charger, so that's why we got that. And we have a mains charger, which we very rarely use because we're very rarely on mains. And then, as I said, installation. We planned and bought all the materials, and we had it professionally done. Now, I'm going to be honest about my experience with the electrics, because it was one that annoyed me a little bit. I spoke to 5 companies, and I found over and over they were over-speccing my system. They were taking the space and saying, let's put loads of panels on the top, let's fill it with lithium batteries, and it was costing huge amounts of money. These quotes were coming out. So I got some tips up there. Do your research, speak to people using the systems. The self-build area is perfect for that. Just go over there and chat to people, ask them what they've got, ask them what they're using, how much solar, what batteries, what brands they're using, and be firm about what you want.
Now, moving on to your gas, we have an LPG system in the lorry, which we really love. There's a lot of concern about it fading out. Now, we're not the best people to speak to about that, but from our experience, we've never struggled to find LPG in the UK or in Europe. The only place is Morocco, where you can't get refillable LPG. We managed to actually just about last on our tank whilst we were over there. But it's really easy. You've got the app, My LPG, so download that and just have a look, and it pinpoints your location. It will just pop up whatever's nearby.
Yep, so our system is a 70-litre external tank, so that's 56-litre usable. It's got an 80% cut-off, which all of them should have. Now, I did install the gas system myself. I'm not a gas engineer or anything like that. It's quite a simple system. It only goes to 2 appliances, our Thetford hob and oven, and our Truma Combi 4 heating and hot water. The system's quite easy to do. That's what I chose to do, but what everyone should do is get it safety checked by a gas engineer, and they have to be leisure gas engineer. There's a specific certificate they must hold. So always get it checked by a professional if you go down that route.
And then we have our water system. So we actually have a 200-litre freshwater tank, which is double what we had in the van, which means it's a bit more luxurious for us now. We get longer showers. We don't have to worry about refilling up, so we can shower the kids as well and that sort of thing. But we do only have a 100-litre grey waste tank, which means that if we're all showering, Rick has to pop outside and empty the grey water for us. But also your placement of your tanks, you need to, because of the weight of your tanks, you need to consider where that is in your vehicle. We've actually not done the best job of that, because ours is actually on our front axle, which is the heavier part, so do better than us.
Yeah, so yeah, we're right on the limit on our front axle. I've got a little bit to spare, so as long as the kids don't grow up too much, we should stay within our limits. But really what I should have done is put that water tank at the back to save a bit of weight. So yeah, we've got a full-size shower, and that's powered by the Truma Combi 4 heating and hot water. And again, the water system is fairly simple to do. If you use the John Guest 12mm push fittings, it's just cut to size, push it together, job done. You know, there's nothing more than that. And filters, you know, we spend our time on the road, and sometimes the water quality is not the best. You do end up with particles, and you know, sometimes like sand and grass in your water tank for some reason. So before our pump, we have a strainer, which we empty probably once a month. And we also have a carbon water filter, which heads to our kitchen, because that's the one we drink out of. It's not a bacteria filter, but it sort of neutralizes any sort of foul tastes and that sort of stuff.
And then you've got your challenges, of course, because you're doing a build like this, you are going to come across some challenges. Our main one was actually with the kids' seating system in the back of the cab. So obviously Rick said it was a sleeper cab. Rick removed the bed bit himself, but we had to put in an order with a company up in Scotland for the seats. And they made it really difficult for us. They started asking all sorts of weird questions. How many hours are we going to be driving? How old were the kids? And we just couldn't figure out what relevance that had, because if they're safe, they should be safe for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, whatever, and they should be safe for children and adults. But in the end, we did manage to get them. We spoke to the managing director, didn't we?
Yeah,
and we got sent them. So there shouldn't have been a challenge there, but there was.
Yeah. Next, there is a bit of stress. So when we were doing this, we was full-time at it, and I said we had 8 weeks to do it, which was doubled in the end. But I was doing long days, 7 days a week, for probably the first month, and then I decided to have Sundays off because it just got too much. And you're learning as you go, so you have to always stay one step ahead, so you're spending a bit of time learning, then planning. Yeah, there was lots of swearing involved, so it was a good job we were doing a big open field.
Yeah, and then we've got our cab windows. If you watch our channel, you'll know that we've just received an update on our cab windows. We get lots of comments because the kids in the back haven't got the window. You can see where the cutout is. And we get lots of comments saying, when are the kids going to get windows? Are they going to get windows? We ordered them over 6 months ago, and we were expecting to get them fitted on our return to the UK. And they've just told us that, no, we can't import them from Germany, and they haven't told us why. So that's an ongoing challenge that we need to figure out.
Yeah, the table edges are also an ongoing challenge. Okay, so do you have to be qualified to do a self-build? In my opinion, no, you don't. I'm not from any of the trades. I come from forestry, so I'm not a carpenter or electrician or anything like that. There's some fantastic content out there on YouTube. Greg Virgo is probably one of my favorites. But again, just ask questions. The self-build areas of these shows are fantastic for asking questions.
And have some fun with it as well. Like, a project like this is really good fun. You can get the family involved, which we did more at the earlier stage when it was empty and not sort of the technical parts of the job. And the kids loved it. We all got involved where we could. So yeah, and you've got that sense of achievement, like over a motorhome. You can obviously you finish it and you're like you've made something really cool.
Yeah,
and it's
cool.
You always said you were going to build me a home, didn't you?
Yeah, bought you a Mercedes. Yeah, and yeah, finally, just get those systems checked. If you're not 100%, get them checked. And sometimes get them checked during the build, especially your electrics. As I said, we got them done professionally. But if you're doing them yourself and you're not 100%, before you box everything in, just get someone in just to give them a quick once over.
So yeah, these are just a few pictures that I thought I'd pop on there during the build, us all having fun, which has to sort of getting the whole family involved and stuff. And that was obviously in the earlier stages, but yeah, all good fun.
Yeah. Okay, so that's the inside of the lorry before we converted it. You can see the roof there is very thin. And that's an after photo. Just don't look at my table edges. Yeah, so lots and lots of space around that dining table, which is what we wanted.
And then we've got our kitchen area, and the best thing about this is that we have an oven, because we lived for a year in the van without an oven and we only had 2 hobs. So now I can actually cook some better meals and apple crumble and all of that sort of stuff.
And then shower and toilet, which is very difficult to photograph, but we've got a nice full-size shower and we have a separator toilet in there as well.
Now, the kids' bedroom, you can see they've got the fixed beds there. We wanted the bunk beds. We knew it was really important for them to have a space of their own that they can each go to. IKEA is a really good place if you're wanting to sort of look for inspiration and storage as well, which is obviously very difficult. We've got the Trofast tubs there, the tubs under Teddy's bed, and we've managed to fit 16 of those under there. So we've got school books in there, we've got clothes, we've got a toy box, craft box. That's pretty much where all of their stuff is, isn't it?
And then the living room, so that's us sat round in Spain, near Murcia for our Christmas lunch. And what we wanted was a place we could all sit round, which we couldn't do in our Citroen Relay. There was always someone probably sitting on the bed at the back. So we wanted this big, nice table we could all sit around. And I did my not kitchen cupboards, the living room cupboards, and I actually ordered coffee bags from eBay just to add a little bit of character into the build there. So a few troubles and concerns. These were really raised to us by some of our subscribers at the early days. So where are you going to park it? Won't it be expensive to run? And it will be a nightmare to drive. So where are we going to park it? Here's just a couple of places. So this is us at Garnham's Field. That's actually where we converted the lorry, just in that field there. We were further back, but yeah, we had no electricity or anything like that. We just used a generator, and we also had a portable battery bank with a little solar panel, which charged our cordless power tools.
And there we are at Morrison's supermarket doing our weekly shop. The bigger supermarkets are fine, but when it comes to Lidl and Aldi, which we do like to shop at, they are more difficult. So, we try and get there early if we know we're going to somewhere that it's going to be a big tight, and some are just written off, basically, but we always manage to get food.
Okay, so that's at a campsite in Mercia. That's the one we were at for Christmas. And we had a bit of trouble here because when I booked it, we booked it via Pitch Up, which is very rare for us. And it says the bays are 9 meters by 10 meters. So we're 9 meters, so I had a bit to play with. So we booked it, but they allocated a pitch which was probably only suitable for maximum 7.5, 8 meter motorhomes. And it sent us down some really, really tight campsite lanes, which were only just wide enough for the lorry. And I had to make really tight right angle turns. We had everyone outside watching us, so I was really put under pressure. But we finally found a different pitch. So some campsites can be a little tight, and you have to sometimes wander around a little bit to find that pitch.
And then, of course, you've got your wild camping option. That was us there in Morocco. We don't tend to wild camp a lot because we like to have somewhere where we know we're not going to get moved on. The last thing we want having kids is to be woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning with a knock on the door saying, please move. It's just, we'd rather not do that. And you've also got your added sense of security if you're somewhere official.
Okay, and how not to park. So when we finished the conversion on that field, we left in autumn amongst heavy, heavy rain, and I took the wrong route off the field, and we got completely bogged down. We actually had to start with, we had my truck connected to the tractor, connected to a dump truck, which I was driving. Kira was driving the lorry, and a local dog walker jumped on the tractor. So, but in the end, there was a local housing estate being built down the road, and I went and spoke, and they actually kindly came along with a big telehandler and pulled me out, no problem. So yeah, we do need to be a little bit careful on the grass. Okay, won't it be expensive to run? So our road tax is only 165 quid a year, which is half the price of our van. It's a private heavy goods vehicle. I think that's gone up slightly. But yeah, really, really cheap. Service and repairs, we paid for a full service, including MOT and getting the retarder braking system serviced, 500 quid, which I don't think is too bad. And repairs, we've only had it 6 months, and so far we haven't had anything. So, I expect them to be a little bit more money being a commercial vehicle. And you also have to find somewhere that can actually service a vehicle this size. So often you have to actually go to a heavy goods vehicle service centre. But it's also MOT'd as a Class 4, not a Class 7. And yeah, finally, fuel economy. So yeah, average over our 6-month trip from the UK all the way down to the Sahara Desert and back to the UK, we averaged 18.5 miles per gallon, which I don't think is too bad considering the size. Okay, and yeah, won't it be a nightmare to drive? To start with, yeah, you have to get used to it a little bit. It's a big vehicle, and it is it's a different feeling when you're sitting in it. You've got all your air systems, so all the brakes are on air, hand brakes are on air, even your steering wheel column lift is on air. But you soon get used to it. I went out with my dad for a couple of hours. He used to actually teach people to drive lorries. And he gave me a good bit of advice, which is just dominate the road. Just dominate the road, be bold and basically tell everyone else to move out your way, sort of thing. And that's us driving through a Moroccan town. Doesn't quite show the hecticness of the place, but...
And there we are triumphs and successives. So I think the biggest success of all for us is the feeling that it gives us, and it feels like home. Like, it doesn't feel like a lorry, and it feels like home, and that's how we know that it's done its job, you've done your job.
Yeah.
And one thing we do really like, which other people have been concerned about, is the fact that you can't access the cab from the back of the lorry, from our living area. But we love that, because once we're in the back, we don't have to look at a steering wheel, we don't have to look at a gear stick, it's just home. So I think for us that works really, really well.
Absolutely. And that's it, guys. So as I mentioned, we are in the self-build area. So if you want to have a look at the truck, jump inside, have a look around, look at our systems in a bit more detail, ask questions, then jump over to the self-build area. But we'll open the floor up to questions now. So thank you.